So I had a two-toned carpet, and I put down the diagonals in my pencil crayon first and put my marker right over top, just lightly. Underneath this is a Prismacolor marker that you don't have, Celadon Green, and it's great for glass. You have the light cerulean, and that will do as well, but it also comes in a pencil crayon, a Prismacolor pencil crayon. And you can do a resist with your pencil crayon. I just have to put in some marks with the pencil crayon. And it's better if you kind of have something down there to start with that gets a little bit of a guideline. And now when I put this over top, you can see it revealed underneath. And then it's just a matter of texturing it over top. To give it a little bit more texture, I have my sandpaper. And I could either use a color or... This sandpaper is a little bit coarse, and that will help to meld it in. But it's a very quick and easy way. You can buy brushes that have unusual shapes as well, so that when you go into the gouache, and you can use your colors too, you can make lines with your gouache. If you have a bedspread, for example, that has one of those complicated crossover patterns, can't really see what it's doing here, but you have to wait for it to dry, of course, but once it's dry, you can do this without much trouble. There's not much trouble there to work with. The other great thing is using a stiff bristle brush, a hog's hair brush that they use for oil painting. If you have those at home, they can make, if you have a bedspread with a complicated floral pattern or a carpet with a complicated pattern, you would just have to bounce this up and down. That's how I made the bedspread for the bed here. And you see the tufting. I went with pencil crayon, I did everything, and still I couldn't get a light value. So I put in a little bit of gouache, dabbed my finger. Sometimes the gouache is too harsh. This I did 3 times, I think. I put down the white, put the blue over, put down the white, more white, the blue over. So there's depth to it. It's not just sitting on the surface, it's sitting on top. And so you can see that will work. I think this might be dry now, so we can try going over that. Yeah, maybe I didn't put enough on, but you can sort of see now. If it's dark enough, you can sort of see. So I might have needed to put a little bit more on. And don't forget too, you can mix your colors by putting one over top of the other and get some really beautiful results. It's important to have a whole chart down all your colors, and just imagine what would happen if you put a few together, how they would all work. Sometimes when you're working, you have a pattern. If you make it too small or too large, it's going to make the furniture look the wrong size. So you've got to be very, very careful to get the right size of pattern. And one of the ways to do it, the way that I did this one, was to, since it's a rather large one, I put the color down, the lightest color down first. And then I put the darker color over top and drew the pattern in over top. First shadows, because it does have a shadow shape. This is a warm color, so I'm going to put a French gray for the shadow this time. This shadow was a cold gray, and it doesn't seem quite right there. Remember, even in your grays, you want a gradual value. If I do it this way, I have a direction. You should always have a direction that you're going in with your markers. So if I go from dark to light this way, then it gets a little lighter over here. And now this is in shadow, and it's going to go dark to light this way. So I lighten up. I press starting here, and I go a little lighter as I go that way. Now that's a pretty dark marker, so probably a little too dark, but we'll see how it goes. And then Same thing. This is your geometric shapes, remember? They're not flat when you render them. They go from dark to light, and dark to light this way. I'm going to draw in my pattern now. So it's just a matter of dotting it in. If you do it while it's wet, then you'll get something very soft. So that's maybe the ideal thing to do, is try to get it while it's wet. And then you don't fuss quite so much either. So trying to just... So that's probably one of the best ways to not get too overly worried about putting in your pattern if you do it quickly and while it's wet. And this is called negative shape. And while it gets lighter, you don't put it in quite so much. The one above is more finished. That's the other thing. Everybody has their tolerance for detail. Some like a lot and some like it very loose and just a marker stroke here and there. And that's all fine. Just you have to have, you'll find different ways to add contrast if you want to just put it in lightly and work on the white of the paper and go from there. So you see, that would be how to keep going with this so that you could see. Now on that side, I made a mistake. That gray was way too dark. I've got to lighten that up. So I can do that with a pencil crayon. And maybe not an orange at all, but a pink. That's the other thing. Don't worry. For example, if you're using two blues, and one blue is very warm, it has a lot of green in it, and one blue is more purpley, you can use those together and they will look great. So it doesn't have to be the same temperature. There, that's even better. See, I can always retrieve it if I have a soft pencil. Hard ones, they're not very helpful. But it's still a darker value than that. Just to roll that under. This is another case where that is too gray. I have to go back and make sure it still looks orange when I'm done.